Section 4.7, we're going to look at what, for most people, is the single most expensive purchase that they ever make in their lifetimes: home ownership. So let's look a little bit at buying and selling a home. So the first thing that you probably should do when you're deciding on the purchase of a home is to determine how much you can afford. Because unless you have enough cash to pay for the house outright, then you're probably going to need to get a mortgage, which is just a special loan for homes. And lending institutions, one of the things that they use is your debt to income ratio. So when you have certain debts, and these are all of your things that you're going to have to pay for, particularly things like credit cards, auto loans, student loans, as well as some of these other things that people are spending in any given month. All of that goes into your debts, and then you divide that by the monthly income, and that's going to be given as a percentage. And as long as your debt to income ratio is between 36 and 45, then most of the lending institutions are going to be okay with that. So that's one of the things. And but the debt to income ratio also is considered with your credit worthiness, usually your credit score, as well as the amount of the down payment. So there's a lot of different things going into this. The more payment that you make up front, then the lower your acceptable DTI is going to be. Also, if you have a better credit score, then that'll be in your favor as far as your debt to income ratio. Now, when I was applying for my home loan, I really ran into a lot of trouble because of my student loans. Having those student loans while I was trying to get into a home greatly affected how much house that I could afford. And, that's why I don't regret taking out student loans, because the education was worth it, but it definitely made it that much harder to start my adult life. So that's something you definitely want to consider. And if you are planning on getting a home before you have your student loans paid off, which for most people, you'll probably want to buy a home within 10 years, be careful with things like a car purchase and your student loan debt, because those are going to go against you and prevent what kind of house that you can afford. So anyway, let's just take a look at how we can calculate this ratio. So here, Tessa has a minimum credit payment of $150, a car payment, car insurance, and she has a loan where the monthly payment is $1,253.56. So if she has a gross monthly income of $5,050, what's her debt to income ratio? So we simply need to add all of her monthly payments and divide by her gross income. And so here, when we add all of those monthly payments, we get $1,853.92. Divide that by her income, and we get 0.3671. So her debt to income ratio is about 37%. So it's in that range that is typically acceptable. Now, however, that is, that we're assuming here that what the loan that she's applying is this $1,253. She has pretty much maxed out how much debt she can handle. So she would not be able to get anything in addition to what she's doing right now. Now, something that you need to consider when you buy a home is that at some point you may later want to sell it. And there's lots of costs that are associated in selling a house. There's commissions that you have to pay to your real estate agent or their company if they are part of that sale. You have title insurance. There's actually an insurance policy that you have to have that guarantees the buyer of your house that your seller actually does own the home. Preventing any sorts of fraud where somebody says that they own a house that they really actually don't. And so if they don't own the house, they can't sell the house to you. And also there's a fee for escrow, and this escrow is this third party that takes care of things like homeowners insurance payments and taxes. It's a separate account that you are paying into this account every month. That's helping cover these once or twice a year fees. And so that's also a fee that you have to account for when you are selling a house. So how do all of those fees come into play? Well, let's say that you're selling a home that's worth $275,000. You've got a 5% commission. You have a 1.1% title insurance and an escrow fee of $750. So even though your house you're selling for $275,000, that is not how much you're going to walk away with. So we can calculate these percentages by taking the percentage, turning it into a decimal, and multiplying. So the real estate agent is going to get $13,750. The title insurance is $3,025. And so we take that price of the home sale and subtract the commission, the insurance, and the escrow fee. And so she's only going to receive $257,475. So there's definitely a lot of cost associated with a home. And so this goes into that discussion of should you rent, should you buy? Because yes, when you rent, you don't get anything at the end. But when you purchase a home, you do have an awful lot of fees, both in buying and selling a home. And you have your maintenance costs, and you have the interest rate that you're paying for. And so it's not always a cut and dry situation of like, yes, you should absolutely buy, or yes, you should absolutely rent. There's a lot that goes into this discussion, and we did look at that in one of our discussion boards. Now, most mortgages that you will probably consider are these fixed rate mortgages, and that just means that the rate's not going to change throughout the life of your loan. So a mortgage, just a fancy name for the loan that you use for the house, and your fixed rate mortgage, that's your conventional mortgage. And like I said, it's the interest rate stays the same. Whatever it is on the day that you take your mortgage out is going to stay for all 15 or 30 years of that loan. What that also means is that the monthly payment is going to remain mostly unchanged throughout the term of the loan. There is one exception there. Your homeowner's insurance and your taxes could go up. If your home increases in value, then your taxes are going to go up. And so you might have to change your monthly payment slightly to account for that. I think my monthly payment has gone up about $30 from when I originally took out my mortgage, just because of things like taxes. Now, there's lots of different terms for a mortgage. It could be 15 years, 20 years, 25, and 30. And in your mortgage project, you'll actually look at the different cost for these loans over time. And you'll see a big difference between a 15-year mortgage and a 30-year mortgage. And so these monthly payments would be called your mortgage payments. So these are all going to be equal payments. The last one might be a little bit smaller, but for the most part, we are looking at equal payments at equal time intervals. They usually are compounded once a month, and it's the same formula that we've been using for calculating payments. If you wanted to do it by hand, that's the formula, but I do Excel for all of this. So if we wanted to figure out how much her monthly payment is, we are going to look at the cost of the loan, the interest rate, and how many months that we're going to have to pay this. Certainly don't want to do all of this by hand. And so we are going to start with the loan amount is $230,000. We're going to have our interest rate, that's 4.5%, and our term, so that is 30 times 12 for 360 payments. So the first thing we want is the payment amount. And so here we're going to use our PMT function, and our rate, oops, I have 2 percentages there. So that's going to be a problem. So let me escape out of this. I don't want 2 percentages. That's better. Okay, so our payment amount is going to equal PMT, and then our rate divided by 12, our number of periods. Now for the present value, you owe $230,000, so you actually want to do a negative and then the loan amount. That's a weird thing here, but trust me, you want to do that for this calculation. And then present value is going to be 0. So when we hit equals, and our payment is going to be $1,165.38. Now, we have these monthly payments, but maybe we're interested in the total amount paid. If you're making these payments 360 times, then your total amount paid is going to be the payment amount times the number of times you make that payment. So that ends up being a $419,535.44 house. So how much of that was principal? Well, principal is going to be the cost of the loan, or the cost of the house, $230,000. But how much was in interest? Well, we do that by taking the total amount paid. We hit equals the total amount paid minus that loan amount. And so you actually spent $189,535.44 in interest. You almost bought a second home from the interest that you paid. Okay, and 4.5% is not that high of an interest rate. So when you do these 30-year loans, you end up with a tremendous amount of interest paid. Now, you'll do more of this in your project, but I just want to point out something here. If we had done a 15-year loan instead, if this had been 180 months, the payment went up a substantial amount. Okay, the payment did go up about $600, but the interest went down by about $100,000. We ended up paying a lot less in interest when we did a shorter term loan. So that is something to consider when you're purchasing a home. If you don't want to basically pay for 2 homes while you pay off in 30 years, then you really should consider a 15-year loan. Your payments will be a lot higher, which means that you won't be able to afford quite as big of a house. This whole 30-year loan thing really happened so that people could have bigger homes, more expensive homes. But the consequence of that is that you essentially buy 2 houses while you're paying it off.